Imagine this. The spotlight's on, the world is watching, and the stakes are higher than ever. The Olympics, a dazzling display of athletic prowess and global unity, captivate billions. But behind the glitz and glamour lies a sobering reality. The costs of hosting an Olympic Games often exceed the benefits, sometimes by quite far, leaving host countries grappling with colossal debts and long-term financial burdens. In this video, we'll dive deep into the numbers to understand why hosting this mega event might not be the golden opportunity it seems. But before that, let me show you some of the surface level benefits associated with the Olympics for the host cities. The International Olympics Committee, IOC, has projected billions in economic activity in the host cities. Take, for example, the just concluded Paris Olympics, which is expected to generate $12.2 billion in economic activities. Similarly, Los Angeles' 2028 Olympics, Brisbane's 2032 Olympics, and Milano Cortina's 2026 Winter Games are expected to generate in US dollars $18.3 billion, $13.4 billion, and $3.2 billion in economic activities. Similarly, when it comes to the employment generation and business growth, the Olympics have a great appeal. For example, the London 2012 Olympic Games generated over 110,000 jobs. In the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, businesses were awarded 59 million Canadian dollars in procurement-related contracts. Now, let's come to the dark side of the Olympics. First, let's examine some hard numbers from recent Olympic Games. The Beijing 2008 Summer Olympics cost a staggering $42 billion to host, but generated only $3.6 billion in revenue. Vancouver's 2010 Winter Games followed a similar pattern, with a total expenditure of $7.6 billion against revenues of just $2.8 billion. The London 2012 Summer Olympics, which many hoped would break this trend, cost $18 billion while bringing in only $5.2 billion. These examples highlight a troubling consistency. The host countries incur significant financial losses. Cost overruns are a significant issue. The 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics in Russia had a cost overrun of 289%. Brazil's 2016 Rio Olympics saw a 352% overrun, and Tokyo's 2020 Games had a 128% overrun. These figures underscore the difficulty in accurately forecasting costs and dealing with ever-changing geopolitical landscapes. Servicing post-Olympics debt can strain public budgets for decades, with Montreal taking until 2006 to pay off its 1976 Games debt, Greece's Olympic debt contributing to bankruptcy, and Sochi's 2014 Winter Games costing Russian taxpayers nearly $1 billion annually. This prompts an obvious question. Why do countries even bid for the Olympics? The idea of hosting the Olympics isn't purely driven by potential financial gain. A prime example often cited is the 1984 Los Angeles Games, which made a hefty profit of $232 million, worth over $700 million today. This created a myth that the Olympics could be a financial boon for host cities. However, the reality has been different for most cities. For example, the 2016 Olympics in Brazil had an impact on around 2,200 micro and small businesses, generating 390 million Brazilian reais in contracts and creating 18,000 new jobs. Similarly, the 1992 Barcelona Olympics helped reduce the city's unemployment rate from 18.4% to 9.6% between 1986 and 1992. But these are the exceptions rather than the rule. Beyond the numbers, countries often pursue the Olympics for branding and propaganda purposes. The 1936 Berlin Olympics, famously used by Hitler as a propaganda tool, showcased Nazi Germany's prowess to the world. Fast forward to 1988, the Seoul Olympics allowed South Korea to display its rapid economic development, leading to a surge in direct foreign investment. In 2008, China used the Beijing Olympics to demonstrate its modernization and growth. Despite these examples of successful national image building, the economic reality for most host countries remains grim. Tourism is often touted as a significant benefit of hosting the Olympics. The 1992 Barcelona Olympics transformed the city from the 13th most popular destination in Europe to the 5th by 2010. The extensive media coverage of the Olympics places host cities on the global map, attracting tourists even after the Games are over. However, these benefits are often overstated. Many economists argue that the rising cost of hosting the Olympics can lead to economic crises. For example, the 2000 Sydney Games spent $250 million on security, but by the 2004 Athens Games, security costs had soared to $1.5 billion, a six-fold increase in just 4 years. Unpredictable geopolitical and economic landscapes further complicate the financial feasibility of hosting the Olympics. From the time of bidding to actually hosting, a country's economic situation can change drastically. Imagine if a country like Pakistan had decided to host the Olympics in 2008, 2018 or 2021. Each of these periods coincided with major economic crises or recovery phases that would have made hosting the Olympics a disastrous financial decision. Similarly, employment generation is yet another myth, as the jobs created by the Olympics often fall short of projections. The 1984 LA Games created 5,000 jobs, while the 1996 Atlanta Games created between 3 and 42,000 jobs. However, subsequent Olympics have shown diminishing returns. The 2000 Sydney Games saw household consumption decrease by $2 billion, and the 2002 Salt Lake City Games saw merchandise sales drop by $167 million. Many argue that the Olympics help building lasting sports facilities. However, many of these venues actually turn into white elephants, expensive to maintain and underused after the Games. For instance, the stadiums built for the 2016 Rio Olympics have not been used since the Games and are crumbling due to neglect and vandalism. Sydney's Olympic Stadium costs $30 million annually to maintain, while Beijing's $460 million Bird's Nest Stadium, requiring $10 million per year for upkeep, remained largely unused after the 2008 Games, until eventually being repurposed for the 2022 Winter Games. The infrastructure growth accelerated by the Olympics comes at a high cost and is often not as beneficial as promised. The IOC plays a significant role in the financial dynamics of the Olympics. The IOC measures its operations in 4-year cycles called Olympiads, which include both winter and summer games. During the 2017 to 2020 cycle, the IOC generated $7.6 billion in revenue, with 61% coming from broadcast rights and 30% from marketing rights. Despite these revenues, the IOC keeps only 10% for operational costs, with the rest going towards staging the games and supporting athletes and national Olympic committees. Host cities, however, bear the brunt of the costs. Paris is expected to spend $8.2 billion on the 2024 Olympics, while Tokyo spent $12.9 billion on the 2020 Games. Even with IOC contributions, there remains a significant financial gap that host cities must cover. The argument that hosting the Olympics boosts tourism and global profiling is looking increasingly shaky. Owing to the reasons mentioned above, the number of cities bidding for the Olympics is decreasing constantly. For instance, for 2024, only 2 cities submitted their bids, Paris and Los Angeles. So the Olympics Committee, fearing that no city would bid for 2028, approved the 2024 bid for Paris and 2028 bid for Los Angeles. So what's the solution? Some suggest that the IOC should contribute more to the host city's costs, but with only $7.6 billion every 4 years, this hardly seems feasible. Another solution could be having regular host cities to minimize costs by reusing venues. However, this would then limit the number of cities willing to host the games. There's also the possibility of reducing the scale and extravagance of the games to make them more affordable. Ultimately, the evidence suggests that the costs of hosting the Olympics often outweigh the benefits. While the games bring temporary boosts in tourism and job creation, the long-term financial burden can be crippling. The billions spent on hosting could arguably be better used for sustainable development projects that offer more substantial and lasting benefits. Hosting the Olympics has become a game of public relations and national pride, often at the expense of economic stability. Countries need to weigh the short-term gains against the long-term financial health and consider whether the prestige of hosting is worth the economic risks. The Olympics, in its current form, is more of a liability than an asset, and without significant reforms, it will continue to be a financial burden on host countries.